Hello, welcome to my channel. It's the beginning of 2025. Hope you are off to an amazing start and ready to take on everything this year has to offer. In this video, I am going to show you how to create smocking style of garments in Clo 3D. Smocking is a type of embroidery technique originally used to gather fabric for decorative purposes and to create a fitted, elastic effect in garments. It gained popularity in the 16th century where it was applied to both men's and women's clothing. Over time, smocking evolved into numerous variations. For the first demonstration, as usual, I am going to start with the easiest style: elastic smocking. In the 3D window, I uploaded a dress block and have finished the style lines. For this strapless dress, I will add the smocking around the upper front and back bodice. First, use Transform Pattern tool to select both front and back patterns. Right-click and choose Layer Clone over to make a duplicate layer on top of them. While the new duplicated pieces are still selected, right-click again and choose Remove Linked Editing. Next step, I need to increase the width so I will have enough fabric to make smocking. Use Transform Pattern tool to select the duplicated pieces. Drag the dotted square out horizontally. Right-click the mouse to bring out Transform window. Or click Ctrl if you are using Mac computer. Enter the percentage amount that you want to add to the width and click OK. Click Simulate to make sure the new layers fits fine on avatar. By the way, you can freeze the rest of the pattern pieces to reduce the chance of getting collision. Lower particle distance to 10 to make the material drape nicer. Use Edit Pattern tool, hold Shift and select top and bottom segment lines on both patterns. Right-click and choose Distribute Internal Line Between Segment. In the pop-up window, enter the number of the offsets and click OK. And the numbers of internal lines will be evenly divided within the pattern piece. When the internal lines are still highlighted as yellow, hold Shift to select top and bottom segment lines. Go to Property Editor and turn on Elastic function. Lower elastic ratio to your preference. Go to 3D window and click Simulate. Adjust the ratio after Simulate in 3D window until you get the look you want. The fabric doesn't gather too much right now. Go to Property Editor and lower the particle distance to 5 and simulate it again. Now it's looking much better. Use a softer fabric for smocking style will give you a better result. Unfreeze the rest of the pattern pieces and let it simulate again to make sure there's no issue. And there, I have finished the elastic smocking section on this dress. To complete the look for this design, I will also add a lettuce edge ruffle around the top opening. And a bubble overlay skirt for the bottom of the dress. Now the pattern is done, I can change color, select material types, and style the avatar for rendering. You can also add top stitching to the internal lines to give a more realistic smocking look. Moving on to the second demonstration, Honeycomb Smocking. In the 3D window, I have finished the silhouette of the sample dress. For this design, I will create a center front panel and add honeycomb smocking. Before doing that, let's talk about the smocking pattern. When making smocking in real life, you need to draw squares or dots on the fabric and use them as the guide to stitch the design. Here is the honeycomb smocking pattern. Use 2 dots as a set and sew them together. Then the next roll, skip the first dot and repeat the same steps. Back to 3D window, I have made the center front panel and split it in half from the center front. Select both pieces, right-click and choose Layer Clone over to make a new duplicated layer. Then right-click again to choose Remove Linked Editing. Select all the base dress patterns, right-click and freeze them. To make honeycomb smocking, I need to increase the width to the front panel. Use Edit Pattern tool, select Center Front Segment Lines. Right-click and choose Offset Pattern Outline. Half of the front panel is about 4 inches wide. So in the pop-up window, I am going to enter 4 inches in distance and click OK. Use Trace tool to remove slash lines and use Edit Sewing to fix the missing sewing connection on the new extension. Select Center Front Segment Lines, right-click and choose Merge. Remove merge lines and convert all the unnecessary points to curve points. In 3D window, select the front panel, right-click and choose Reset 3D Arrangement. Simulate to make sure the panel fits correctly. Lower particle distance to 10 to let it drape nicer. Now the front panel is ready for smocking. First, I need to create the squares within the panel. Select 2 side segment lines. Right-click and choose Distribute Internal Line Between Segments. For this panel, I will add 12 offsets. Once the internal lines are generated and still highlighted as yellow, go to Property Editor. Under Fold, turn on Fold Rendering, lower fold angle to 0 and click Simulate. The reason I am folding these internal lines is to help stitching the points easier and prevent collision. Now the vertical lines are done, I need to add horizontal internal lines. Select the bottom segment line. Right-click and choose Offset as internal line. Adjust the distance and numbers of offset to create squares, then click OK. Use Transform Pattern tool. Right-click any place in 2D window and choose Lock All Pattern Outlines. Then use Edit Pattern tool to select all the internal lines within Center Front panel. Right-click and choose Add Point to Intersection. Next, I can start connect the points. There are two ways you can do in Clo 3D. The easiest way is to use Tack tool from 3D window toolbar. Make sure you select Tack, not Tack on Avatar. Go back to 2D window, follow the honeycomb pattern. Start tacking the points. Once it's done, strengthen the pattern and click Simulate. And there, I have made the honeycomb smocking. Some areas didn't tack correctly. I can just delete the tack and redo it again. Unstrengthen the pattern. Lower particle distance to 5 and simulate. It looks pretty good. Select all the vertical internal line. Turn off fold rendering and increase fold angle, so it won't have the sharp folding edges. This is the first method you can use. However, as you can see the result, there is still a little gap between the connection. If you like to eliminate the gap, you can use the second method, which is sewing tool. Here I used free sewing tool to connect the points. It took much longer, but I think the result is better. Now I have finished the Honeycomb Smocking panel. I can start adding finishing details, adding colors, selecting material type, and styles the avatar for rendering. And here is the final render. Now you have an idea of the methods you can use to create smocking style garments. You can easily find the smocking patterns online and create the design in Clo 3D. For the last demonstration, I am going to show you another variation, arrow smocking. I have made a new dress example in 3D window. For this dress, I will add the smocking design to the front skirt. By the way, here is the regular arrow smocking pattern. What I am going to use for this demonstration is a more complicated pattern with different directions of arrow. First, I will add the internal lines to determine the size and placement for the front smocking panel. Select the internal lines, right-click and choose Cut and Sew. Freeze the base skirt. Right-click on the front panel and choose Layer Clone Over. Once the new duplicated layer is generated, right-click again to remove linked editing. Add a center internal line and cut the panel in half. Like the previous demonstration, I need to increase width for smocking. Click Center Front Segment, right-click and choose Offset Pattern Outline. Enter distance amount and click OK. Remember to use Edit Sewing to adjust the sewing relation on the extension part of the pattern. Click Simulate. Make sure the duplicated layer fits correctly. For this smocking, not only I need to add width, but I also need to extend the length. When making a complicated smocking pattern, it can be hard to calculate the exact number you need to increase. You might have to test a couple times to see what amount works better for your design. Select bottom segment line, right-click and choose Offset Pattern Outline. Enter the amount in distance and click OK. Use Trace tool to remove slash lines. Convert all the unnecessary points to curve points. Reset 3D arrangement in 3D window and strengthen the pieces. Select Center Front Segment Line, right-click and choose Offset as internal line to add vertical lines within the pattern. Merge the two pieces. Use Trace tool, select the center front merge line. Delete it. Then select second merge line, click Enter or Return to turn it into a red internal line. Next step, I will add the horizontal internal lines to create squares within the pattern. Because of this arrow pattern is a bit complicated, It will be easier to break the panel into 3 sections. This will also help to get a better simulation result. In each piece, I will add points to the intersection of all internal lines. Now, I can start connecting the points using tack tool. Okay, I have finished all the tacking. Click Simulate and unstrengthen the patterns. There are still a couple areas I need to fix the sewing lines. Once everything fits fine, I will lower particle distance to 10 and simulate again. The center arrow smocking panel looks a little messy. Lower particle distance to 5. Select the piece and reset 3D arrangement in 3D window. Simulate and adjust the panel. Now the panel drapes much better. Unfreeze bottom layer skirt and simulate. I can see the center front hem line went up quite a bit. To fix the issue, I will add more length to the center front panel and gradually decrease it to the sides. I will also do the same for the underlayer panel. For the underlayer skirt panel, I am going to add a center front seam and use seam tape to reinforce them. Simulate again. Everything looks pretty good. I can go ahead and complete this design. Here is the final render. That's all the demonstrations for this tutorial. I hope you find this video helpful. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to click like and subscribe.